quit eating my props.
Well, they're good for me.
Well, I can't argue with him there. Welcome to our program on survival. Today we're going to take a good look at how just making small changes in what we eat can give us some huge health benefits.
Many of us would like to improve our diet to lose a little bit of weight, or to protect against lifestyle diseases, or to boost our energy levels.
Well, I know I would. Unfortunately, the word diet has got a bit of a bad rap from fad diets, but when we say diet, we mean our nutritional intake for the day or our eating choices.
And the average diet isn't too bad. Most of us just need to refine it with some simple changes to achieve balance.
So today we're going to look at how we can get the scales to tip in the right direction, so to speak.
And we've got plenty of practical tips on smart eating.
Our first guest today to talk to us about balance is Professor Mark Walkvist. He's speaking with Jonathan Duffy. Want another one?
Mark, what is the most important principle in seeking good nutrition?
The most important principle in seeking good nutrition is to have a wide variety of foods and to be physically active. As far as food variety is concerned, this means choosing from amongst different plant foods, from different animal-derived foods, if that's part of one's belief system, food preferences. And in doing so, it means that one has nutrients which are essential and those also which confer protection against diseases. So, for example, that means having essential nutrients, the macronutrients like protein, carbohydrate, fat, dietary fibre, water, and the micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, and also what we now call the phytonutrients or phytochemicals, which are often the colours and the smells and the tastes of plant foods, which themselves are multifunctional compounds and which protect us against a number of diseases. One can't get all of those things from a narrow range of foods. One can't get them from a handful of pills. One needs a wide variety of foods. Balance is often used as an excuse for promoting one or other food commodity over another, and is often not helpful to the way in which we think about food and health. We can talk about nutritious food, and by nutritious food we mean particularly food that is high in nutrient concentration. We talk about nutrient density. So the amount of a nutrient and the numbers of different nutrients, or phytonutrients too for that matter, that there are per calorie or per energy value of the food gives us a good idea of how nutritious the food is. Also, if we combine that with the concept of variety, then we have a good grasp on what a preferred healthy-oriented food choice is. We don't all eat the same, and we each have our own frame of reference. Usually, this is based on what our family does, its own needs, what our community does, what our culture does, what our belief system is. And I think it's important for those of us in nutrition to be respectful of people's culture and beliefs, and to recognise that a number of cultures have found different food ways, if you like, by which they can achieve optimal health and longevity.
Does everything we eat have to be based on best nutrition?
Well, everything we eat does not have to be based on nutrition, and I'd go further than that and say it should not all be based on best nutrition. For one, the social role that food plays is important for our health. Eating with others is important, and celebration with food is also important. Festive, family, religious events around food are important occasions, and they play a very important role in our health. And with celebration and with times of enjoyment often go what people regard as indiscretions, and human biology can tolerate some excursions in the way in which we eat. It is one of the strengths of our species. Indeed, there is good evidence that the ability to manage some error, if you like, in the way we do things is a measure of our health.
So there is more than one way to achieve a balanced diet, but variety is the key.
Absolutely. If we eat a variety of foods, we get our essential nutrients, the vitamins and minerals that our bodies need.
Just take a look at Kylie's plate here. See how she's arranged the colours beautifully? Well, that's her artistic tendencies coming out.
Hey, I thought we were talking about plates, not colour palettes.
No, I'm just pointing out that choosing a variety of coloured foods is a quick check that you're getting plenty of variety.
Smart guy, huh? Well, he's done his research. Different phytonutrients actually make foods different colours. So if we eat a lot of different coloured foods, we'll help to ward off a lot of different diseases.
Yes, am I allowed to eat any of this yet?
Go ahead.
Ah. Yum, yum.
Have you ever been so busy that you skipped a meal altogether? It's usually breakfast. Inevitably, what ends up happening is you have a huge meal to make up for it. Probably not ideal. But just what is the balance we're aiming for? Jonathan Duffy caught up with nutritionist Sue Rad.
Sue, how important is it to eat regular meals?
Incredibly important. Basically, eating regular meals will ensure that we have good blood sugar control and also regular intake of nutrients. But in addition to that, eating regularly will help prevent overeating, which of course is important for the waistline. Now, for most people, they need between 2 to 3 main meals per day. And the reason why I say 2 to 3 is because, of course, if you're very sedentary and don't do a lot of exercise, you're better off by eating a lighter meal in the evening, something like perhaps a soup or a salad. Now, snacks are optional, they're not compulsory, but they can be very useful for children who have higher energy requirements for growth and development. I think the problem some adults can run into is if they're snacking all day long, or grazing as it's otherwise known, because primarily snack foods tend to be high in fat, sugar, salt, and of course are low in some of the protective foods that we need to be eating.
What's the difference between a meal and a snack?
Well, a meal should be something that's going to fill you up comfortably, something like a bowl or perhaps a dinner plate's worth. A snack could be something like a piece of fruit, a handful of nuts perhaps, or even a small tub of low-fat yogurt.
A number of people skip breakfast. Is this a problem?
Nearly 25% of people regularly skip breakfast, particularly adolescents, young girls and young adults. And of course, breakfast is still the most important meal of the day, so it is a major problem. Breakfast gives us the kickstart for the day. It helps us control our weight, our blood cholesterol levels. Breakfast eaters generally are thinner and have lower levels of cholesterol in their blood, but it also enhances our nutrient intake for the entire day, not just at that particular meal. It's incredibly important for our mind, our mood, our well-being, and of course for kids to optimise their performance at school. Now, what would be a good sort of breakfast to have? Well, something perhaps like a bowl of whole grain cereal with some fruit and nuts, and perhaps with some low-fat or non-fat milk, or better still, soy milk. Alternatively, you could have something like whole wheat or wholemeal toast with some nut butter or some baked beans. But don't forget fluids, often they're neglected. We tend to get very dehydrated overnight as we sleep and as we fast. So when we get up, one of the most important things to be doing is to have a glass or two of water even before we start our breakfast.
What should a busy person who works late and eats late do?
I think if you're a really busy person and you have to stay longer at work perhaps and get home much later, it's probably a smart idea to have a snack in the afternoon, but something very nutritious, like a handful of nuts, perhaps a couple of slices of toast, or even a couple of pieces of fruit. And that's just going to help take the edge of your appetite, so that when you do arrive home, you're not ravenous and about to eat everything in sight, but you're going to eat something a lot more nutritious and have a healthier meal.
If we eat 3 meals a day, plus wholesome snacks, then we shouldn't really feel hungry. But if we skip breakfast, our blood sugar will be low, and this will affect our mood and performance. And before you know it, you're scrounging through the fridge looking for snacks, or you're overeating at your next meal. So what's a fast and easy breakfast for busy people?
Here's a really quick and easy idea for making a nutritious breakfast at home. It's buckwheat, and it's called do-it-yourself buckwheat because literally that's what it does, and you don't have to do very much at all. What I did the night before is place 1/3 cup of buckwheat into my thermos flask and added 3/4 cup of boiling water. And basically it rehydrated itself overnight, and now we've got breakfast. So simple. especially good if you're very, very busy like me. And there it is. And in case you're wondering, buckwheat is actually not any type of wheat. It's a type of flour that's related to the rhubarb family. And it's gluten-free, so very important for those people who have an allergy to gluten or can't take wheat. And the important thing with these grains is that you add some really interesting toppings because grains are fairly bland. And today we're going to add some LSA, which actually is linseeds, sesame seeds and almonds. Quite delicious. We're going to drizzle with some honey for some extra sweetness. And I also really like to add some pastes, some nut and seed pastes. In case you're not familiar with tahini, it's basically a ground up sesame seed paste, and just a dollop of that makes a beautiful topping on any grain type cereal. But as well as that, nut pastes are delicious on cereal. This one's a combination of almond, Brazil and cashews, but you can use any nut butter you like, even peanut butter. And if you think you're going to get really healthy, watch out, because you are. Here's some pecans, almonds, and really any fruit in season. Today, we've got some papaya from Fiji, as it happens. We have some delicious passion fruit, but remember, using fresh fruit is always the best, and using seasonal fruit, you're going to get the best flavour. And my favourite to finish off, delicious berries, raspberries, blueberries, whatever sort of berries you like. And finishing off, either some low-fat milk, or I prefer soya milk, and you've got not only a delicious and nutritious meal, but something that's going to make you last until lunchtime without wanting to snack on any junk food. Yummy.
With much of our food today being highly processed, many of us are simply not getting the benefits of fresh food. You can't beat that kind of freshness. Unfortunately, many of our Western diets are simply not providing the nutrients and fibre that you can get from plant-based food. Studies are showing that we're simply not eating enough fruit and veggies and are at a higher risk of getting cancer. Plant-based foods protect us from lifestyle diseases.
Sue, is it true to say that plant foods are protective foods?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it's a deficiency of plant foods in the typical Western diet that's been identified as a major risk factor for diseases such as cancer and heart disease. In fact, we've got over 200 scientific studies that show that people who eat the most fruits and vegetables have the lowest rates of almost all types of cancers. In addition, many other studies show that eating a plant-based diet can help lower your cholesterol, your blood pressure, help keep you regular, and even help you keep your waistline.
So what is it about plant foods that makes them protective?
Well, there's several things. Firstly, plant foods don't contain any cholesterol. They're low in animal fat or saturated fat, and of course they don't contain animal protein, which can promote hardening of the arteries. But what everyone's getting excited about is what plant foods do contain. They're very rich in substances known as phytonutrients, things that give food their colour. For example, the flavonoids that colour the grapes purple, or the carotenoids that colour your pumpkin orange, or those smelly sort of vegetables such as cauliflower or Brussels sprouts. They contain substances called isothionates. It's these phytonutrients that act like antioxidants or phytoestrogens and actually help to guard us, to protect us from getting sick in the first place.
So how much plant-based food should we eat in a day?
Well, that's a really good question. And in fact, most people don't eat enough. So that's the key message. But in general, about 2 pieces of fruit per day and about 5 servings of vegetables. Now, whilst that might sound a lot at start, a serving is like half a cup of vegetables. So it's not that much indeed. A handful of nuts every second day, and grain foods are really important. Whole grain, breads, cereals, brown rice. We should include some of those each day. And eating legumes every day is very, very important. All kinds of beans, peas, lentils. In fact, Asian cultures, such as the Japanese, who have the longest lifespan that's recognised in the world, eat a lot of legumes in the form of soybeans and soy products. And these in particular are very, very protective against chronic degenerative diseases.
You don't have to be a vegetarian to enjoy a plant-based diet. We're all very familiar with the healthy food pyramid set out by the Australian Nutritional Foundation. At the bottom, the biggest chunk of the pyramid is fruits, vegetables, cereals, breads and grains, and that's where we're supposed to take the biggest of our daily intake. In the middle is proteins. It's got dairy, meats, poultry, fish, nuts and legumes. Next up, towards the top, is fats and oils. Now we shouldn't have too much of that, about 40 or 50 grams a day. And you guessed it, up there on its own in the pointy bit is sugar. We shouldn't have much of that at all. This pyramid gives us a good guideline for a great diet. But how do we make good guidelines into a really solid daily routine? Kathy McDonald has some good ideas on how we can get our 5 veggies and 2 or 3 pieces of fruit every day.
Are you interested in eating more plant-based meals? Can you see the health benefits but aren't quite sure where to start? Well, you're not alone. According to research that we've commissioned, just under half of all people would like more information on how to prepare plant-based meals. And the good news is that this style of eating is not only healthy for you, it can also taste good, be easy to prepare, and something that the whole family can enjoy. There are 3 simple things to keep in mind when preparing plant-based meals. The first one is to base as many of our meals and snacks on whole plant foods as possible. We call them nature's superfoods, and by this we mean fruits and vegetables, whole grain breads and cereals and other types of grains, our protein foods, which are important for not only protein but also iron, and we're talking here about things like legumes, nuts, seeds and tofu, and also lots of herbs and spices. The second thing to keep in mind is to eat as wide a variety of these sorts of foods as possible, because each of the different foods contain different nutrients. And the third thing is to top up with low-fat dairy or fortified soy products. If we take this approach to our plant-based eating, then the nutrition will basically take care of itself. Okay, let's put all of this into practice and see just how easy it is to take this approach in our everyday eating. So for breakfast, for example, we could choose a whole grain breakfast cereal like Weet-Bix with fresh fruit, some muesli served with dairy or fortified soy milk, along with some whole grain toast. On the weekends, you might like to try something a bit different. Sometimes my husband cooks up for us some baked beans on toast with some vegetables like roast tomato, mushrooms and fresh basil. For some lunch ideas, we can choose something like a lentil burger with a generous serving of salad, some Lebanese bread with falafel, and in winter, perhaps something like a minestrone soup with red kidney beans and a crusty whole grain roll. For some kids' lunchbox ideas, we can choose different sandwich fillings with different types of whole grain breads like pita bread, and for something a little bit different, some mini pizza muffins, which can be popped into the lunchbox along with some fruit and a tub of yogurt or something like that. And for dinner, there's lots of ideas like a stir fry with ginger, cashews and lots of different vegetables, a vegetable stack served with couscous and chickpeas, tandoori vegetable kebabs using tofu served on rice, and some pasta dishes with a sauce like ricotta cheese, tomato and fresh basil. Then for dessert, there's all the different kinds of fruits that you can choose served with, say, yogurt or low-fat ice cream. If you're choosing a more traditional meat and vegetable type of meal, fill up the plate with vegetables so that you can get their protective effects, and keep your serving of meat, chicken or fish to about the size of a deck of cards, so that the plate is mostly filled up with vegetables. For a balanced day's eating, we need to have at least 5 serves of breads and cereals, 2 to 3 of fruit, and 5 of vegetables. As you can see, with this breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner, we've easily achieved that.
Healthy living starts at the supermarket with our food choices. And remember, when you're shopping, don't just grab items off the middle shelves. Shopkeepers and supermarkets put tempting items and specials there at eye level to try to get us to buy them. It's one of the oldest tricks in the trade. So only buy what you came in for and what you really want to put in your mouth. Kim Sterling takes us on a guided shopping tour.
When
going shopping, it's a really good idea to choose the foods that you need to eat more of, such as your plant foods. Also take a shopping list. It actually helps you to make sure you don't end up with surplus ingredients that week. Well, let's go shopping. Here's a great way of adding a salad to your meal, but remember, convenience costs extra. Avocado is a lower fat alternative to margarine and butter on your salad sandwich. Choose 2 to 3 serves of fruit per day. Fruit is full of those nutrients that we really need, like your vitamins, minerals and fibre. Hey, choose fruits though that your family really enjoy so that they'll eat them. Aim to have at least 5 serves of vegetables every day. It's really important to have variety though, and an easy way to choose variety so that you get all the nutrients that your body needs is to look at colour. Choose orange and red today. If you don't know how to use one of the vegetables that you've chosen, talk to your local greengrocer. People are often confused with legumes. Legumes are just beans, and a way that we often use them is baked beans on toast. Or another way that's really convenient is chili beans, which you can use on bean haystacks or nachos, tacos, or simply on toast as well. Legumes are a great source of protein, so they're very filling. They also are high in fibre and contain many other nutrients that our body needs to function. Pasta is a really easy meal to prepare for your family, but choose the tomato-based pasta sauces as they tend to be much lower in fat than most of the others. While your pasta's cooking though, how about adding some vegetables to the sauce just to make it a much more nutritious, complete meal for your family? There is heaps of different rice available on the market. Whole grain is the best, but if your family doesn't like that, try basmati. It is actually a little bit slower to digest and so gives you sustained energy, and it tastes great. Not all breakfast cereals are nutritious. Check the nutrition panel and choose one that is low in energy and low in added sugar. Surprise, surprise, some cereals do contain dried fruits and their natural fruit sugars will be higher, but that's okay. Crackers are a healthy choice for the whole family as a snack. Choose a whole grain cracker so that you get the added benefit of extra fibre in the diet. Another popular choice is rice crackers. Rice crackers are baked rather than fried, so they've got a lot less oil than you'd get in potato chips or corn chips as well. Seaweed's my favourite with salsa. When choosing meat, choose one that has had the fat trimmed off it. Hi, could I have half a kilo please of porterhouse? Fish and chicken are lean meats. With chicken, choose one that's had the skin removed. Pick whole grain bread. They are really full of nutrients. They are filling as well. They're great for school lunches. I'm going to take this one. Use cream cheese as a substitute for margarine or butter. It makes a great spread. And when using hard cheeses, choose one that's a light or low-fat version. Light yogurt is really great as a snack. It is low in fat and it's also low in kilojoules as well, but fills you up and helps you feel satisfied. For those afternoons when you're feeling really peckish at 4 o'clock, look for it as a great way to get you through to your dinner. Frozen vegetables are an easy way to get some of your 5 servings of vegetables in a day. Contrary to popular belief, frozen vegetables don't lose any of their nutrition value. Well, pistachios. Everybody's allowed a treat now and then. Why not look at something like nuts instead of chocolates or lollies? Because they have a great fat in them, the type of fat that is beneficial for heart health. Phew, that's it. I hope by following some of these simple nutrition tips that we've given you, that you'll be able to help improve the health and well-being of your family. Thank you.
All food companies now are required by law to show the contents of what's in here on the label, which is fantastic for us, the consumer, because it gives us a lot more control over exactly what we're eating. So here's the nutrition label right here, and you can see saturated fat, only 1 gram in a whole 100 mils. That's pretty good, so good. Sugars, 4.8 grams in 100 mils, and sodium, which of course is salt, 133 milligrams. Again, not a lot of salt, which is great. Down the bottom, you can also see that they've included all of the food additives.
Let's just compare the fat in these 2 different cheese types. Type 1 has 7 grams of fat per slice, while the light has only 2 grams of fat per slice. So with a few simple substitutes, we can significantly drop our daily fat intake.
Our bodies are approximately 70% water, which means it should be our staple drink every day. But most of us just aren't getting enough of the good old clear stuff.
Other drinks, such as soy or milk or juice, are important for calcium and nutrients, but they don't replace water as our main source of hydration.
And coffee and tea are actually diuretics, which means although there's a lot of fluid going in, it actually goes right through you because it stimulates the bladder. It's the caffeine in tea and coffee which actually does the opposite of what we need. It dehydrates you. So Alan, you can't count that cup of coffee in your daily fluid intake.
Fair enough. Darren Morton explains why H2O is so vital to our health.
Darren, why is water so important to our health?
Yeah, we know that next to oxygen, water is the most essential nutrient required by your body, and it's required for a variety of different reasons. One of these include keeping our cool, and obviously we know that when we get warm, one of the primary ways that we get rid of that heat, which can be very dangerous if we overheat, is by sweating, and so water is required for that. Water is also required for transport around our body of nutrients to all our cells, also for the excretion of waste, which is a very important process as well. So yeah, water is a fundamental nutrient, and we don't go long without it. In fact, there was a study that was published, the Adventist Health Study, which actually was interested in the question of what causes coronary heart attacks or fatal coronary heart attacks. And they actually found that not drinking enough water was as provocative as things like smoking, eating the wrong foods, exercise. So water really featured. And when they started to tease out why that was the case, what they actually found is that people that don't drink enough water are often in a mild state of dehydration. And even mild dehydration starts to have an effect on our blood. We know that your blood, because it's largely water, when you decrease that water component, it becomes thicker. It's like, I have a little analogy for you here, Jonathan. You imagine that normally blood has a lot of water in it, and so when the heart tries to circulate it and squeeze, it does it easily. Whereas, as you become dehydrated, the blood begins to become thicker, just like this honey. And so when it tries to circulate it around, obviously the heart's having to work a lot harder. And they believe that it's one of the primary factors that was contributing to heart attacks. So not drinking enough water, the statistics indicated that those people that drank 3 to 4 glasses a day, over those that didn't aim to do that, had a 40% reduction in coronary heart disease, or fatal heart attacks, I should say. And those that were drinking 5 or more glasses a day, amongst males, had a 60% reduction in fatal heart attacks.
Is 5 glasses enough?
Yeah, the recommendation is that 5 is probably not adequate. We know that on average people lose about 2.5 litres of fluid per day through various means. And so that equates to around about 8 glasses. That's the ideal, that's what we encourage people to aim for, 8 glasses of fluid per day. That is, of course, unless, obviously that's highly variable depending on the weather conditions. So in warmer weather you need to drink more than that. And obviously when you're active and you start perspiring to keep you cool, you need to increase that also. And the recommendation there is that you need to be drinking around about 1/2 to 3/4 of a glass every 15 minutes during activity.
When we say a glass, what size glass are we talking about?
Yeah, the guideline here is, we're talking usually 250 mils. So as a general rule, you're looking at around about 600 ml, which is just over 1/2 litre to 1 litre per hour during exercise. There's a couple of important times that probably water is by far the best option, and one of those times is first thing in the morning. The Adventist Health Study actually found that, as other studies, that the most common time for people to have heart attacks is between 6 and 9 in the morning, and it's probably because over the course of the evening you actually become quite dehydrated, you haven't consumed any fluids. And to complicate that, often the first thing that people drink when they first get up is their tea and their coffee, and even very sugary drinks like some juices, which can temporarily dehydrate your body further. And so, yeah, it seems that water, having as you've heard, your 2 glasses when you first get up is a very good strategy. The other thing that I should mention here is that throughout the course of the day, be aware that other fluids, such as your soft drinks that have a high sugar content, have consequences associated with using them to get your fluid. For example, not many people realise that it can take you, 3/4 of an hour or so of walking just to burn off the calories contained in a 600 ml bottle of soft drink. So, there's certain things that need to be considered if you're going to supplement your fluid intake with drinks other than water.
Just how many people do you think actually get their 8 glasses of water a day?
I use this as a measure of what I've drunk throughout the day. I know it's 600 ml, and I keep it with me and I sip it all day long. And if at the end of the day I've filled it 4 times, then I know I've nearly reached my daily goal of 2.5 litres.
Pretty clever. Do you ever get there? Do you ever drink the whole lot?
Well, I have to work at it. I have to keep reminding myself to drink. But when I do, I really notice how much more energy I've got.
Thirst is often mistaken for hunger, and if you don't drink enough, you get pretty fatigued. Although 8 glasses might seem a lot to drink all at once, you don't drink it all at once. Just a glass every now and then, spread over the whole day. Easy.
I'll drink to that. Hey, check this out. What a bargain. I got the drink and the chips for another 50 cents.
Oh, you're hysterical. I bet they said, would you like some fries with that?
So what's wrong with that?
Well, we've just been upsized.
Upsized?
Yep, that's a common term used to get you to part with more of your money for more of their food. But is it really better value? Jonathan caught up with David Cameron Smith and they talked about just this topic.
David, does the trend of meal upsizing offer increased value?
Oh, for the customer, absolutely, and that's why people are rushing to these upsized meals. When you go in to a fast food outlet, you are at their mercy in many respects. So they offer you an upsized serving option, and it's a good bargain. For an extra 50 cents, which is about 10 to 15% of the purchase price, you get anywhere from 15 to 35% more fat, and about the same for sugar, 15 to 35% more sugar. So it's a bargain when it comes to energy. But if you look at the amount of fat, most fast foods give you about 50 to 60 grams of fat in an average serve. Take it out to a larger serving size and you get anywhere up to 80 or 90 grams of fat. And let's put that into some sort of context. The average person needs about 40 to 50 grams of fat per day. So that's far more fat than you ever need. And excess fat is stored, and sugar is energy, and that means you store extra fat as well.
Are the larger meal portions restricted to the takeaways, or have they come into the homes as well?
They certainly have come into the homes. When you look at foods that are available in supermarkets, serving sizes or meal sizes in supermarket pre-prepared foods have gone up. And that's a trend that's been happening for the last 5 to 10 years. But inside the home, people are eating more than they ever have eaten before. And we eat on the basis of serving size. We're trained or conditioned to eat what's put in front of us. And it seems to run in families, that families get used or adjusted to having large serving sizes or large meals, and it's a diabolical situation. The whole family overeats.
What is the public health cost of upsizing?
The public health costs are absolutely enormous. In my lifetime, the rates of obesity have gone from about 15% and they are heading towards 25%. That's 1/4 of the population being classified as obese. And at the same time, everyone is getting fatter. Now, fat drives a number of serious diseases. It's the cause or the root problem of diabetes, and diabetes is a major epidemic. It costs you, the person, an enormous amount of time. It reduces your quality of life, and most people with type 2 diabetes will suffer from that condition to the day they die. In addition to that, you've got things like high blood pressure. High blood pressure is a serious disease that causes heart attacks and heart disease. So when you look at it in the bigger picture, increased serving sizes as well as eating more food outside the home means that people are getting fatter, and that's a significant health risk.
Can I show you something?
Do your worst.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
See that big chunk of fat there? That's about 50 grams of fat. That's your recommended daily intake of fat.
Look, I'm really starting to lose my appetite.
Oh, well, hang on to it because there's more to come.
Ah.
See that? That is a 90-gram chunk of fat. And that, my friend, is what you've got there in your upsized burger meal. And
Okay.
about 850 calories.
So I'm really starting to feel full now.
You know, I haven't even mentioned the quiet 260 calories in the soft drink.
Okay, so it's not good value. And basically, it's only the food companies that profit.
You know, when you cook at home, you control everything you put into your food and how much of it.
But we also love to eat out.
Yes, we do. But how do we make healthy choices when we're out and about?
If you want to eat out healthily, you've got to start planning at home before you go out. All too often you can get caught up with a social group, or you can find yourself caught out and about with no good food outlets on hand. So if you can think, where will I find myself today? Who am I going to find myself with? And know this is the sort of food I want, the sort of healthy food I want to get hold of. It's becoming easier, and that's the funny thing, because there seems to be a lot more on offer, but you have to go and look for it. For example, if you're eating Italian, you can go pasta and just a tomato-based sauce instead of the creamy, and that's how you'll cut out the fat. Or you can go Asian and just have the white rice, the boiled rice, instead of the fried rice. But one of the big issues will be, you know, keeping your portions small enough as well. So even though you want value for money, it'll be going for something that just satisfies you without filling you up too much. I guess one good way to start is to find out what's the smallest plate they have. Order an entree or ask them to show you what is your entree size. All too often you can get a main and they want to give you good value, so you end up with something you've got no hope of even getting halfway through. Order the entree, that's a safer bet.
Matt, what are some tips for eating out healthfully?
Well, firstly, when you go out, have a plan, and so take your time to look at the menu. Order water first up, so you've got, say, water on your table, and that will start to put something in your belly without the calories. And don't be afraid to share a meal. If you've ended up with something that's too large, you can share that with somebody, and even at the end, you can still have a treat. But the cake at the end could be quite large, so share that with somebody as well. And you'll find yourself having a good time when you're out, but not feeling bloated and uncomfortable, and you can also feel healthy.
You know, that's a really good point about not being bloated. Our bodies tell us when we've eaten enough, but often we're not listening or we just ignore the signals.
Yeah, you're right. If we tuned into our bodies a little bit more, we'd probably fall back into those natural eating behaviours, you know, like stopping eating when we're already full.
I guess what it comes back to is making healthy food choices.
Yeah. For protection against lifestyle diseases and to make sure that we get the right amount of nutrients in our food, we need about 5 veggies and about 2 or 3 pieces of fruit every day.
And don't forget 8 glasses of water a day.
You know, some of us are already doing some of these healthy things.
Maybe what we should do is take a reality check. Write down all the food you've eaten over the last few days, and you'll probably find that with a few simple changes you can improve your nutrition and your health.
Well, I guess there's a lot of truth in that old saying, you are what you eat.
Looking at the big picture, it all comes back to balance. Healthy food choices, exercise, rest, and taking care of your intellectual, your emotional, and your spiritual needs.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up Program 4, Survival. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Any tips?
No, I'm going to put those in the bin and I'm going to...